All right, let's bring in our buddy Brett Norsworthy stats. 3-6 in on Memphis Radio Sports 56. That's pre and post for the Ole Miss Network. And I got to give Brett this. Brett texted me after the Memphis game. I remember this. It was a Sunday, and he was like, don't be surprised if Silverfield ends up in Fayetteville. And we talked about it, just conversations. And, Brett, you're right, man. Head coach here in Arkansas, and now we're going to see what happens here in the next few weeks with the early recruiting cycle and the transfer portal opening up here in about a month.
Good morning, man, and happy holidays. Yeah, I was right that day, but I never imagined him going on and losing to UAB with an interim coach and a first-time starter quarterback and then not winning a game in November. But it's just part of the sadness of where Arkansas football has fallen to, that you're that kind of out there drifting in the wind trying to find a coach. They kind of had to settle on somebody. I don't think many people wanted it. It's a really tough job. 0-8, 16th out of 16th, and hadn't had a winning SEC record since 2015. It's a really hard job, and not many people wanted it.
Yeah, and on that note, stats. I know fundraising is something that's been an issue for Arkansas. The recruiting staff as well. Sound like that Memphis was one of the better group of 5 schools that was flush with cash, and I know that the season didn't end the way that Tigers fans wanted it. Any idea how much truth there was when it comes to the NIL resources that Silverfield had there, and maybe what it will look like here in Fayetteville?
Well, I can't imagine if Hunter Yurachek fell for that, but he may have, because he proves to be consistently, every day, emphatically, the most incompetent boob out there in college football. If he fell for Ryan Silverfield raising that money, then it's astounding, because me and you and Tommy could have been head coach at Memphis, and FedEx would have offered their support. He had just almost nothing to do with it. He's not out and about and really selling the program ever. He's not very engaging, and I think he's all in all a very average coach.
So tell us, I mean, you just defined him as average. Tell us what kind of coach you're getting in Fayetteville, and what kind of person that will be amongst the fans in Northwest Arkansas.
Well, I just think getting very, very mid-level type coach. And I don't know what his identity is. He's an old offensive line coach, and that gives people a lot of pause, because that's what Sam Pittman was. And he was elevated off Mike Norvell's staff when Mike Norvell got the FSU job. But he's never had an identity on offense. Is he a running coach? Is he a throwing coach? And then on defense, he has proved through the years he just doesn't know hardly anything about having a defense out there.
Yep. So when you look at how you think he'll build a program in Fayetteville, and he's got NFL background, and I've noticed in he's coached offensive and defensive lines at time. Are we getting an offensive coach, or are we getting a defensive coach?
Tommy, I'm sorry, I don't know, because he's really never been distinguishing in either one at Memphis. It's just been pretty blah. He's had some good wins. He did beat Arkansas this year by 1 on a fluke play, but Arkansas ended up being 16th in the SEC. So how big really was that? And he cannot build a program that can compete in the SEC off Arkansas recruits. We know that emphatically now. And now with Missouri and OU and Texas A&M and Texas in the league, that shut off a lot of old recruiting places for previous Arkansas head coaches. I mean, remember, Steve Atwater was out of St. Louis, and Gary Anderson was out of the state of Missouri way back when. I think it's a really hard job, and this by no means. Not only is this not a home run, I mean, this may have just been a C&I single.
Stats, when you think about the transition of a new television network, I know you and I have talked maybe off air. You don't think Arkansas is going to maybe get excluded from what's to come if there's conference realignment or anything like that. But, I mean, it seems like the Razorbacks always have the wrong guy in transitional years. When you enter the SEC in '92, when Texas A&M and Missouri got added in 2012, when Oklahoma and Texas A&M got added, I just don't know how you could argue that he's either going to be the coach in 4 or 5 years, or that he's going to be the right guy leading you into that next transition when things may change here in a couple of years, and even the 9-game schedule this next year.
Well, I don't think Arkansas would ever get left behind. I know they wouldn't as long as Greg Sankey is commissioner of the SEC, and his heir apparent someday, not anytime soon, will be his chief financial officer, Charlie Hussey, just like Greg was to Mike Slive. I don't think they get left behind, but when we go to that one, and we will on the next big sea change in college football, we're going to start the new contracts with everything next year. They're going to run through about 30 or 31, and then I think we will get down to 60, maybe 70 teams. And Arkansas is definitely in either one, 60 or 70. But by then, they really need to get the act together and show some relevancy because they just haven't in a long time, and it's been really a laughingstock program.
Stats, I wonder your thoughts on the hires made this weekend. We don't know what's going to happen in Lexington. We've seen Pete Golding elevated in Oxford, which I know you're close to that program. John Summerall to Florida, Alex Golesh to Auburn. Just kind of your overall thoughts on the SEC hires that were announced this weekend.
I thought in the end, after Florida got played horribly, they were never in the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes, ever. He was never going to Gainesville. And all the stuff about Layla Kiffin's dad being John Reeves, and he was. John Reeves has been deceased now for several years. I think in the end, Florida got the best of the new hires in John Summerall, who I just love. But you're a good friend, Pete Golding. Remember Pete and his family sat with us at the Toronto Grizzlies game when you were in Memphis last year for the Liberty Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was just a fun conversation. Listen, I didn't really say much, but listening to you guys saw it. I wonder, like, it was crazy chaos. We were talking about it. Just a wild scene across college football this weekend in Baton Rouge and Oxford, of course, with what happened with Lane Kiffin. I wonder, in your best estimation, like, I think LSU, I think, is a better job, but I thought he had it humming and rolling in Oxford. Why do you think Lane Kiffin ultimately left Oxford for Baton Rouge?
In the end, I think he just had that restless spirit and nature about him that he always wants to try kind of that bigger job, and LSU is more historic. We know all that, but he just left a team that's going to be in the playoffs, and Ole Miss has a chance to go deep in these playoffs. This is a really good team, 11-1 team, first time to win 11 in school history. I just didn't think he was going to walk out on that, and he wasn't going to walk out on that for Florida. But LSU was just too much appeal for him. And I think one of the real, after you get past the salary and the money for NIL and all that stuff, the weight room and all the shiny toys, Ed Orgeron, who he's really good friends with, I think just really sold him on, you can come to LSU and win at least the one I did and Les Miles did and Coach Saban did. He's going to be there for the balance of his 50s. He'll turn 51 next spring. So from 51 to 60 or 61, 9, 10 seasons, I think he wins 2 or 3 national championships there. He's a great coach and a great guy. Even with today, his image already back in flames and kind of the same old Lane Kiffin. But I know him well. I had the last interview with him as the Ole Miss football coach on Friday after the Egg Bowl in a very excited locker room after doubling up Mississippi State.
So the fans that were at the airport and clearly, were upset with Lane Kiffin, does that represent the fan base and how they feel about Lane Kiffin in Oxford right now, or is that a misrepresentation of how Ole Miss fans feel about a coach that won 11 games this year?
Tommy, I can't speak for the entire fan base or even those people assembled at the airport yesterday. I can only speak for myself, and it sure doesn't represent me. I will thank him forever for making Ole Miss relevant. You got to remember where Ole Miss was after that loss on Egg Bowl Day in 2019, and Elijah Moore hiked his leg up. We were out of the football business. I mean, it was over, and he revived us, made us relevant. 32 wins in the last 3 years, 11 wins this year. The 11 wins this year, Arkansas's won 13 in the last 3 years, and Mississippi State's won 12 in the last 3 years. Ole Miss won 11 this year.
How will Pete Golding be there as the new head coach? The search was quick, and it ended there in the same office.
Well, it was for the now, and it was for the future. The now is to hold the staff and the team together, and he has not a single opt-out. We'll have not one. Everybody will play in the college football playoff game that we suspect we will host in Oxford on Saturday, December 19th. It might be the Saturday the 20th. It might be the Friday the 19th game especially if it's Notre Dame or Alabama we're paired up against, because that's big TV appeal, and that's on ESPN, ABC. And then the 3 games on Saturday have been sub-licensed to TNT. But Pete Golding will do a good job. He's instrumental in recruiting most of the players on the team, either through the portal or traditional recruiting. And he's going into starting his Ole Miss tenure in the best shape of any coach ever. Lane's leaving it better for him than arguably anybody since Johnny Vaught left it for Billy Kennard.
You don't always win your first bet. That's why MyBookie has you covered. Use our code HOGS, HOGS, and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. If your pick doesn't hit, you get it right back with our Bet Back bonus. Go to mybookie.ag and use the code HOGS to claim your Bet Back bonus. MyBookie's where bettors win together, because bragging's good, but cashing in is better. And your first bet is fully covered. Use our code HOGS.
Must opt in during the bet to use the Bet Back bonus.